Good morning, everybody. This is Jasmine. I am on my way to work. I just kind of wanted to record whatever comes out this morning. Whatever it needs to be heard. So I'm asking God and Spirit to speak through me, and I surrender to whatever message needs to come out. Those who need to hear it, including myself. So, I just dropped my daughter off with her grandmother, her daddy's mom, and who takes care of her during the day while I work, or while we work, me and my ex. And when she was getting out of the car, there was a cardinal that flew up from the ground that was right in front of her and landed on the rooftop of the building that she was going in. And so that was a nice little wonderful sign this morning for me to see. Cardinals are a sign for me of my crossed over loved ones. I feel like it's mostly like my grandfather, my dad's dad, who felt like I was pretty close with. I didn't really know my other grandparents very much. My mom's mom died when I was pretty young. I think it was before we moved to Atlanta from Illinois. She died of breast cancer, and her dad, my mom's dad, they didn't really have the best relationship because there was some abuse, physical and verbal and stuff going on with her and, my grandmother when my mom was growing up. So they didn't have the best relationship. So I don't think she saw him that often. But I do recall a time where she brought us there as young kids. I do recall one time that she brought us. It was probably the last time she brought us before he passed away. And so that's about the only time I remember seeing him. And I vaguely remember that. But I guess, we'll see what comes out today. Maybe it's something to do with family. So me and my daughter are working through some ancestral trauma on my end. It's been really difficult for me. Probably one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. When I was raised, and maybe a lot of you can relate with this, I went through a lot of trauma with my parents getting divorced, and that happened when I was about 7 or 8, soon after we moved from Illinois to Atlanta. And my mother lived separately for him, I don't know, a couple years. She met somebody new and was going to get remarried. And, they had joint custody of us. My mom had main physical custody of us. My dad would get us like every other weekend. He'd come pick us up. And one day he came to pick us up for his weekend, and she told him that she was going to be moving with us kids and getting married and with her new husband. And he was like, well, wait a minute, you didn't, that's not fair for me, how am I going to see my kids? Obviously she was going to be moving from Atlanta, Georgia to Phoenix, Arizona. So that's all the way across the country. And, he didn't have a lot of money. So that was a lot of traveling, a lot of money to be able to come visit us. And of course, they had an argument about it, understandably, right then and there in front of us. And me and my brother were the closest to him by the door. And it got very heated, and she basically said, it's my way or the highway, basically. And my sister was closest to my mom, and so my mom grabbed her, and my dad, he had 2 hands, and he grabbed me and my brother. And he beat himself up over that for so many years. And he kept telling, like, his parents, he's like, Mom, I only had 2 hands. I couldn't get Athena. And he tore himself up over that. And recently, my stepmom, who married him right before he passed, who's still in our lives, thank God, she gave me some stuff while I was up there helping her clean out some storage units. And it was some old photos. And then she found, along with the photos, some old photos of my family and you know, nephews and things like that when I was a teenager. And actually got a few pictures of my first ex-husband, Stacy. And among those items was some affirmations, positive affirmations that my dad wrote on some, what do they call that? The 3x5 note. I forget what they call them. You know, the little note taker things where you write your notes for speeches and stuff on them. He wrote some positive affirmations, but he also wrote things about, you know, letting pain go, past hurts go from people in his life. And I know that was one of the things that, you know, he was working on letting go, was that. My mom also had some wounds against my dad trying to take us, and she never forgave him. I know because I lived with her as a young adult after I got divorced from my first ex-husband when I was about 21. I moved in with her in Pensacola, which is what got me in the Gulf Coast area in the U.S. And I mean, she was still railing about it. So she never forgave him. She wanted me to legally change my last name, which, you know, we did with the court, to my stepdad's. She remarried after that guy that she ran off with to Phoenix. She remarried after that to another guy that she ended up living with till she died. And we didn't know when our mom died. But I imagine she died still unforgiving, like still not forgiving my dad. And it's sad. It's really sad that I didn't even get to tell my own mother goodbye because of the toxicity. She was very passionate about her beliefs, and, you know, that's her. And I'm not trying to pass judgment. She really, I do believe that she was doing the best thing for us kids, but she, you know, she was diagnosed as a manic depressive back then. That's what they called it. Now they call it bipolar disorder. You know, she did suffer, like I said, a lot of physical and verbal abuse in her childhood from her dad. And excuse me, I'm trying to clear my throat here. She really, I don't think, forgave a lot of people. But one thing she did do is we had this cycle with her every time. And I mean, some would call it a narcissist, you know, but I don't know. It seemed like it, but I don't know. I'm not a professional, but we had the same cycle with her over and over that we would go through with her. You know, we would cut her off when she got too toxic, when she was condemning us and calling us whores and whoremongers. Yes, that's exactly what she called us, because we were not living a quote-unquote godly life the way that she saw it. And I emphasize that because that, you know, evolved as her belief system evolved, which I believe, you know, a lot of us, that happens to us. We grow in our faith. Sometimes we find out that what we believed was wrong, and then we evolve. Well, she did the same thing, but hers was kind of going backwards and was going back into animal sacrifice and things like that. And I say that because that actually happened when I was living there, and I didn't want nothing to do with it. I knew it was wrong. And it was like going backwards into Messianic Judaism and then full Judaism. And she was going back to the old law to, about the, the law about the periods and things like that with the women, unclean, clean, and a lot of that, there's no judgment on that. A lot of that I do believe is good, good to abide by, healthy things, but I knew it was wrong in my spirit. I knew in my gut was telling me it was wrong, and I knew it was wrong. And I prayed to God to get me out of there. So when I tell you that she was toxic, she was very toxic. But I went to live with her because I hadn't lived with her a good portion of my childhood from the time, she left the state. And then she tried to come back, kidnap us, by the way. I'll add that in there. About a year after she moved to Phoenix, she came back and tried to kidnap us right in the middle of school day. Had I not asked my fourth grade teacher to come with me because I knew something was up, we probably would have been living with her in Phoenix and grew up that way. And probably, may have been had a little bit more trauma happen to us. But anyway, she tried to do that. I had to get counseling for that, me and my brother, understandably. And there was some traumas that happened there. Obviously we all have our traumas. We all have our things that happen in our childhood. Some of us had worse than others, but it's all there for a purpose. It all serves a purpose, whether you believe that or not. I fully believe that. It's things that a lot of times it's ancestral. It's just passed down from generation to generation. It may come in a slightly different form, but a lot of times it doesn't. The toxicity will be rolled down since the fathers to the third, fourth generation. And I was dealing with that. And so when I say that I was dealing with ancestral trauma, I was dealing with a lot of that toxicity. A lot of it was anger, built up anger that I've been dealing with. That's like the main thing. I tend to have a short fuse, and control issues. And that was something that both my mother and my father had some issues with. I know my father was a lot more passive until he crossed that line, and then he would explode. He would try to be long-suffering and patient, and then he would get to a point and he'd just blow up. With my mom, it was more just consistent. But she would vacillate. She would have the huge mood swings and erratic behavior. You never know which side of her you were going to get. So we were always walking on eggshells with her, and I was scared to even say or do anything around her. I would just hide in my room most of the time when I was living with her. And so now I'm finding myself dealing with these toxic patterns of the control issues, and looking back at how, my mom, I don't think she ever overcame it. I mean, I didn't talk to her for 5 years before she died, and then I found out 5 years later. No, actually, I talked to her, I think, up to the spring that she died, that I found out later from a friend of her and her new husband's back in Phoenix, where she passed away. She moved back to Phoenix from Pensacola. And it was kind of hard to hear that, but that was the longest we'd ever gone without hearing from her. But it's just really hard when you're thinking about these toxic cycles. How are you going to break them? And you're just digging down, trying to figure out where the root of it is. It's hard because so much happened, and I don't know what to look at first. But there's a lot of things that happen, and I've just been asking, God, to show me, what's the main incident that is causing all this anger with me, where I lose my patience and my temper comes out. And I know we all got a bit of a temper. We all get mad to a certain point, but sometimes mine is short, and a lot of times it's something that's subconsciously bothering me and I don't know what it is. And I've been asking for the last 2 or 3 years, God, show me what that is. I want to release it. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that towards my daughter. It hurts me. And I'm certainly not abusive, but I have had some moments where I've really scared myself with how I, snapped back and popped her on the bottom or whatever it was, because she didn't do something fast enough or whatever, things like that. Like, and I was in a hurry because she was constantly playing, and my daughter, some of you may or may not know, I don't know that I've mentioned it, but my daughter's special needs. She's high functioning, but she has mild autism behavioral. She has some tics. She has off the charts ADHD and has been diagnosed with both professionally. And we can't medicate her. We don't want to medicate her, but we did try because it was so off the charts. It was really making it difficult for her in school to sit still and stay seated. And it still is to this day. And she's 12 now, almost 13. And she still struggles to get through one task without playing or talking to herself. And it's really, really frustrating. Obviously as a parent, you're expecting your child, and she's my only child, but you're expecting your child, to be at a certain level at certain ages. I know she's not an ordinary child. Every child's different. But at the same time, you kind of think milestones, right? You're thinking, okay, certain milestones should happen around a certain age, and I'm waiting for that age to happen. I feel like it should have happened by now. But again, I think I'm placing too much judgment on her because she's different. She's got, her brain functions differently than even mine did. And I have ADHD. And I just keep like asking God, what is it? Like, what do I need to do to fix this? Like, what do I need to do to be more patient? What do I need to do? What do I need to fix to keep from losing my cool on her when she consistently like pushes my buttons, I feel like, and testing my boundaries, and trying to be long suffering and give her 2 and 3 opportunities and walk away and see what kind of choice she makes, and she always consistently makes the wrong choice and plays, and she ends up getting consequences and loses privileges and things. And it's like I feel like she's consistently losing privileges. And I've even changed like the how do I say this? I even became less strict, I guess, and gave her some opportunities for her to earn it back with a grandmother when she's with her during the day. And there's been a few times she has, but at the same time, like, I'm wondering what's the best way to do this, because I feel like I'm at a loss. And I know a lot of parents will relate with me on this. I try so hard to not be the parents that I had. And my dad, I feel like he did a pretty good job. But, there was some things he was working on healing. And I think he was still working on healing up until the day he died. And he didn't have a whole lot of notice, I guess. He had a brain tumor, and he found out, I'm trying to remember if it was 2 months ahead of time, maybe a few months, anyway, that he had it, and they were saying he had a 50-50 chance of making it out of the surgery with brain function, and he unfortunately did not make that. And we had to pull life support. But I was in the room when they did that, and I don't think he had a whole lot of time to work on that. But I know that he was trying, because I know I came across those little affirmations that he wrote, and I think they were written the year that he passed away, which was the year that he gave me away in marriage to my first ex-husband. I think he was really working on healing that. But my mom, I don't know if she ever did. And here I am trying to be the curse breaker for my family. And it's difficult. It's hard. So for those of you out there trying to do that, it's kudos to you for trying to be the curse breaker and trying to be different and trying to change those ancestral curses, those wounds, and trying to break them. The patterns, the toxic patterns, because that's what we need right now. We need people to heal those patterns. We need people to do like what I'm doing and what you may be doing and trying to do it differently, do it better. That's what we need. Everybody needs to do the healing work. It's so important. Nobody wants to do it. But sometimes God will trigger events to happen in your life that will cause you to look at yourself and take a deep, hard look at yourself in the mirror and really question who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, why do you do these things, and try to do better. And they happen for a reason, just for that reason, to look at yourself. It's God checking you, look at yourself. Do you want to continue down this road? Because this is going to keep happening until you change something within yourself. You release pain. You release whatever it is that's stuck up inside you somewhere from some wound in the past. And until you do that, it's just going to keep festering and getting worse. You're going to continue having tower moments. You're going to continue having these things that happen to you. And until you get out of victim mentality and you start taking responsibility for your own actions and trying to fix it, it's going to keep happening. It's just the truth. I've experienced it. So we're all in this together. I'm right alongside y'all trying to do this and hoping that others will join me in trying to work on themselves and share their stories. So if you feel guided to share your story, I'd love to hear it. You could feel free to, like, comment, follow me, whatever you want to do. But leave a comment if you feel guided to do that and share, some things that you're going through, maybe some ancestral wounds that you have and how you're trying to work through it and what your history is. So, feel free to share whatever you're guided to share. But I'd love to hear it. And I really hope that what I'm posting really helps people know that you're not the only one going through this kind of stuff. We're all kind of collectively going through it right now. Look at what's happening over in the Middle East. That's just a physical, and really even in our own country, with the division in certain areas, protests and things. That's just an outward representation of what we're feeling inside, the wounds that we have inside that we need to heal. People being triggering us into those kind of actions. So, and there's no judgment on either side. That just shows we all need to work on ourselves. So I just hope this helps some people out there know that you're not alone. I'm doing this for this whole purpose to help people, because we all need to heal. We all need to work on ourselves if we want to make a better world, and we want to change the trajectory of where we're heading as a world, to prevent more world wars and things. It starts with us. It starts with us looking at ourselves, changing those toxic patterns, digging down to those wounds, and releasing that pent-up emotion and surrendering it to God and saying, please take this from me, please heal me. But do the work yourself. Don't just put it all on God's hand. Obviously do the work, do the journaling, however it is that you work through that. You need to look at yourself. You need to pull up where those wounds come from and ask God to help you, and He will. He'll show you. He's done it for me. And do the work, and then God will do the rest. You surrender it to God. Once you find out what it is, you surrender it to God. And you say, please take this from me. I don't want this pain anymore. And you cry it out, you get it out, and you surrender it. And let me tell you, you'll notice a difference. You'll notice a difference. You'll feel lighter. You'll just feel better. I was crying for the last 2 to 3 days. Just releasing some deep-rooted pain. And I don't even know where it stemmed from. But I have a feeling it's what I've been praying for. From where the childhood wound came from. And I still haven't figured out the actual incident where it caused me to feel unworthy. And feel like I wasn't good enough. But I'm sure it's down there somewhere. And I'll figure it out. God will show me. So anyway, I hope I hope this helps some people out there. And I want to leave y'all with, love and praying that each of you gets, gets the healing that you need and that you deserve. But you got to do the work yourself. You got to do this. You got to engage with your own healing. And don't be afraid to reach out to people to help you through it. To help you, a trusted friend, a trusted advisor, a professional therapist, whatever it is, spiritual advisor, whoever you trust. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody, because I've had to do that myself to help me with this last one, this deep wound that I'm working through. So just know that there's people out there that will support you and help you, that you can trust. Just ask God to show you who they are, and He'll bring them to you. All right. Well, I will leave you again with love, and hope you have a wonderful day or evening, and take care.